So I'll give the floor to the committee secretary to present the report according to the instructions of and the recommendations and conclusions. And then we'll present the motions that we brought to the plenary for approval. So the secretary, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson and members of the Bureau. Thank you very much. The introduction of the committee, of the Joint Committee, I will try to read it out to you. The ECOWAS Committee seeks the ECOWAS Parliament to give its view on the draft rules and regulations on the strategic plan. During the session of June 2022, the Parliament was invited to give opinion on the draft rules before the Council of Ministers meeting and the heads of state conference. This seizure was based on the following rules: the one on the creation of the regional fund for the control of episodes and transboundary, the creation of a regional mechanism and the control of episodes and transborder. Sorry, we don't have the copy of the English version. This is based on the climate and its action plan for 2020 and 2030, and it is based on the access strategy and the mobilization of funds on climate. The Joint Committee, Agriculture, Environment and Natural Resources, we met on 28 June 2022 with a view to studying the document that was submitted to it. It was presented by Honorable Orlando Jazz, Chairperson of the Health Committee, assisted by Honorable Samsung Ahi, Vice Chair of the Agriculture Committee, Environment and Natural Resources, Honorable Adebayo Bulugnun, Vice Chair of the Health Committee. The following members were the ones present: Honorable Orisab, Honorable Loza Rocha, Honorable Abjante Awadi Inambe, Honorable Usman Ibrahim Oyo, Honorable Nasiru Abduwara, Dabasawa, and Honorable Aleplim Senano. You will really excuse me because I do not understand myself the names. The meeting began with an observation of a minute's silence, prayers, and it was on meditation by all members. And the chairperson gave a brief remark to emphasize the importance of the meeting, since the Supplementary Act and the enhancement of powers of the ECOWAS Parliament requires that the ECOWAS Commission brings all policies and programs for Parliament to render its opinion before their adoption by the Council of Ministers and the Authority of Heads of State. The Joint Committee would
à la plénière.
formulate.
The chairperson then submitted the draft addenda to members, and it was adopted as follows. Introductory remarks, Chairperson, Committee on Health. Presentation by the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Natural Resources, ECOWAS Commission. Discussion and debate. Report writing. Adoption of report.
En conclusion,
conclusion and recommendations. Members of the Joint Committee commended the Directorates of Environment and Natural Resources of the ECOWAS Commission for coming up with these important policy formulations that will enable our countries properly control the spread of animal diseases through our borders and to implement sound and intelligent agricultural practices to address the climate change issues bedeviling our region. The Joint Committee on Agriculture, Environment and Natural Resources and Health is therefore recommending to the Plenary of Parliament to give a favorable opinion to the ECOWAS Commission for the Council of Ministers and Authority of Heads of State to formally adopt the regulation. Consideration of regulation establishing the Regional Emergency Fund for the control of cross-border epizootic diseases and regulation establishing the regional mechanism to coordinate the prevention and control of cross-border epizootic and zoonotic diseases in West Africa. Regulation on the ECOWAS Regional Climate Strategy and its Plan of Action 2022 to 2030, and regulation on the ECOWAS Climate Finance Access and Mobilization Strategy. In the absence of any other business, the meeting was formally closed by the chairperson. Honorable Orlando Pereira Diaz, Chairperson, Honorable Samson Ahi, Vice Chairperson, and Rapporteur, Honorable Waraisa. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Merci, Madame le rapporteur.
Thank you, Honorable Rapporteur. Dear colleagues, the floor is open. We shall take a list of speakers.
Honorable Ayariga.
Honorable Ayariga.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Let me commend the committee for a very diligent work done. I find the issues referred to this House very important, especially given that our sub-region has been grappling with the issue of transhumans and the fact of they traversing several territories annually and carrying with them social security and, of course, disease transmission challenges. And so a regionally coordinated effort to mobilize financing to deal with the challenges of episodic diseases when they are carried from one country to the other as a result of these movements is highly commendable. And I urge colleagues in this House to give a favorable opinion to the Commission. Secondly, in my previous life, I was very involved in drafting the Paris Climate Change Agreement. And I have always held a view that African countries, and indeed our sub-region, will fare better in terms of mobilizing resources for mitigating the challenges posed by greenhouse gas emissions if we work together. And so the second opinion, favorable opinion being requested relating to the regional climate strategy and its plan of action is equally commendable, and I urge colleagues to also give a favorable opinion to this strategy which is before us. Let me once again thank members of the committee for a very good job done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Merci.
Thank you, Honorable colleague. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Vous avez quelque chose à ajouter?
Committee, do you have anything to add?
Ok. Chers collègues, je soumets donc ce rapport.
Dear colleagues, I submit this report to you for adoption.
Le rapport.
The report is hereby adopted.
Merci, monsieur le
Thank you, co-chairpersons and distinguished rapporteur. Thank you and congratulations. You may go back to your seats.
Merci. Voilà, monsieur le co-président,
Co-chairpersons, the Secretariat has drawn my attention to the fact that you should also present the resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, resolution ECW/Parliament/RES 05/June/2022 of the ECOWAS Parliament establishing the regional mechanism for the coordination of the prevention and control of transboundary animal diseases and zoonosis in West Africa. The ECOWAS Parliament, meeting at its first ordinary session, held from 9th June to 2nd July 2022 in Abuja, mindful of Article 13 of the revised treaty establishing the ECOWAS Parliament, mindful of Article 10, 11, 12 of the ECOWAS revised treaty establishing the Council of Ministers and defining its composition and functions, mindful of Article 25 of the said treaty relating to agricultural development and food security, mindful of decision A/DEC.11/01/05 adopting the ECOWAS agricultural policy, mindful of decision C/DEC/08/06/89 on the animal disease control program, mindful of decision A/DEC 5/10/98 relating to the regulation of transhumans within the ECOWAS member states, mindful of Article 9 of Supplementary Acts A/SA1/12/16 specifying the areas in which referral to the community parliament is mandatory during the adoption process of community acts, mindful of Article 15 of the above-mentioned Supplementary Act, which provides that the Parliament shall adopt resolutions in the application of its mandate. Mindful of Supplementary Acts A/SA 12/01/07, establishing the sub-regional mechanism for coordination of bird flu eradication and control in West Africa. Mindful of Supplementary Acts A/SA/20/02/12, establishing the Regional Animal Health Center, Bamako, as a specialized center of the community. Mindful of Regulation C/REG 22/11/10, establishing community procedures, management of veterinary drugs on biologists. Conscious of the crucial role of the livestock sector in the areas of food and nutritional security, poverty alleviation, and sustainable development, considering that transboundary animal diseases are a concern and threat to the community, particularly stakeholders involved in the animal production chain. Conscious of the need to prevent and effectively eradicate transboundary animal diseases and zoonosis from the West African states, noting the existence of national initiatives to formulate prevention and emergency response plans against transboundary animal diseases and zoonosis. Conscious of the initiatives and support of development partners in the formulation and implementation of concerted and coordinated strategies to effectively prevent and control transboundary animal diseases and zoonosis. Acknowledging the importance of sharing information and experiences in the diagnosis, training, sensitization, prevention, and control of transboundary animal diseases and zoonosis. Conscious of the need to develop and deepen cooperation between member states in the field of prevention and control of transboundary disease and zoonosis. Convinced of the need to align the animal health and welfare strategy of member states with the strategy of the Regional Animal Health Center and the regional institutional arrangements in the field of animal health. Convinced also of the role of the laboratories of Mali, Nigeria, and Senegal in the diagnosis of transboundary animal diseases and zoonosis and the production of vaccines in the West African region. Convinced of the importance of food safety of animal origin and quality control of veterinary medicinal products by the regional laboratories. Considering that operations to prevent and control transboundary animal diseases and zoonosis require adequate financial resources, desirous to harmonize prevention and control plans, and to coordinate the strategy and resources of member states to ensure effective control of transboundary animal diseases and zoonosis in West Africa. On the recommendation of the ministerial meeting of the ECOWAS Specialized Technical Committee on Food and Agriculture held in Abuja from 27 to 28 September 2021, mindful of the report of the Joint Committee on Agriculture, Environment, and Natural Resources and Health, has deliberated and adopted during its sitting of 25 June 2022 the following resolution. Article 1, issues of favorable opinion on the adoption of the regulation relating to the establishment of the regional mechanism for the coordination of the prevention and control of transboundary animal diseases and zoonosis in West Africa. Article 2, mandates the Speaker to forward this resolution to the President of the Commission, done in Abuja on 25th June 2022, For the plenary, the Right Honorable Speaker, Dr. Sidi Mohammed Tunis. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Merci, Madame le rapporteur.
Thank you, Madam Rapporteur. Shall we move on to the second resolution before we come back to deliberate on them? Madam Rapporteur.
Speaker, observation, please. Observation.
Oui, Honorable Tunkara.
Honorable Tunkara, you have the floor.
Yeah, to save time, I would love the presenter to just refer us to the various resolution and avoid the referencing of various articles and just go straight to the capture it and put it before the assembly to save time. Thank you.
La proposition est-elle acceptée par...
Is that proposal accepted by plenary? Thank you.
Donc, vous faites fi des visas.
So please, you do not need to read the mindfuls. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Resolution ECW/PARL /June/2022 of the ECOWAS Parliament on the ECOWAS Regional Climate Strategy and its Action Plan 2022 to 2030. Madam Speaker, I would like to ask the answer to capture the entire resolution as having been read whilst I read the deliberation. Madam Speaker, mindful of the report of the Joint Committee on Agriculture, Environment and Natural Resources as deliberated and adopted during its session of 25th June 2022, the following resolutions. Article 1, issues or a favorable opinion on the ECOWAS Regional Climate Strategy and its Action Plan 2022 to 2030. Article 2, mandates the Speaker to forward this resolution to the President of the Commission, done in Abuja on 25th June 2022 for the plenary, the Right Honorable Speaker, Dr. Sidi Mohammed Tunis. Whilst I take the last resolution, Madam Speaker, resolution ECW/PARL/REX 07/June 2022 of the ECOWAS Parliament on the ECOWAS Climate Finance Access and Mobilization Strategy. Whilst I ask the answer to capture the entire resolution as having been read, whilst I read the deliberations. Madam Speaker, mindful of the report of the Joint Committee on Agriculture, Environment and Natural Resources and Health has deliberated and adopted during its sitting of 25th June 2022 the following resolution. Article 1, issues a favorable opinion on the ECOWAS Climate Finance Access and Mobilization Strategy. Article 2, mandates the Speaker to forward this resolution to the President of the Commission, done in Abuja on 25th June 2022 for the plenary, the Right Honorable Speaker, Dr. Sidi Mohammed Tunis. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Merci.
Thank you, Madam Rapporteur. On these three resolutions, are there any questions or observations?
Honorable Djibo.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would have liked your proposal on the reading of the preambular paragraphs at least be retained, because it is not everybody who is familiar with the dossier, and it is upon the reading of the preambular paragraphs that we may be brought up to par on the reasons why we're adopting this resolution. So instead of going brief and going straight to the deliberation, it's better to read the preambular paragraphs. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Merci, honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Honorable Bida.
Honorable Bida.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Madam Speaker, well, I don't have the right to respond to my colleague, but I wish to say that the plenary already adopted that procedure. So, because you had presented it to us, so it shouldn't be called into question at this point. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Djibo.
Honorable Djibo. Madam Speaker, I did not ask to call into question what the plenary had decided. I said that it should not be the procedure going forward, and it should not be considered a precedent. What I'm saying is that next time, going forward, we should read the preambular paragraphs, because we shouldn't rush things and miss out on what is important. If you look at the preambular paragraphs, you see that there are important points to note, or the basis on which we are issuing an opinion. The committee in question is aware of the details, but not the other committees. So it's not a debate or a controversy. I just want us to work efficiently going forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable. Next time, we will read all the preambular paragraphs.
Y a-t-il d'autres interventions?
Are there any other requests for the floor on these three draft resolutions?
Je vois pas de main.
I don't see any hands up. No, just a moment. I see Honorable Ayariga asking for the floor.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I didn't want to drag us back, but reading everything, including the preambular paragraphs, is not supposed to be compulsory. It's up to the person presenting and the time constraints of the House. And so we should not be pushed into having a specific rule that you must read the preambular paragraphs. In all our national parliaments, usually when it comes to resolutions, you are permitted for brevity and convenience and time to refer people to what is before them. If you want to go and read it, you can read it. But the entire House may not want to be bored or bogged down with reading details. So we can't make it a rule. It's up to the person presenting and the availability of time. And Speaker, if you recall, you indicated that we have a tall list of items to consider today, and you are trying to manage time very efficiently. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Merci, honorable.
Thank you, Honorable.
Je soumets à votre
I present the draft resolutions to you of the ECOWAS Parliament on the draft regulations establishing the regional emergency fund for the control of cross-border and epizootic diseases. West Africa. That is a resolution establishing the regional mechanism to coordinate the prevention and control of cross-border epizootic diseases in West Africa, the draft regulation on ECOWAS regional climate strategy and its plan of action 2022-2030, and draft resolution on the ECOWAS climate finance access and mobilization strategy to the plenary for adoption.
Les trois résolutions.
The three resolutions are hereby adopted.
Merci, Monsieur le
Thank you, co-chairpersons, Madam Rapporteur, and members of the committees.
J'invite à présent
Now I would like to invite
les présidents, les co-présidents
the co-chairpersons of the Joint Committee on Infrastructure, Customs, Free Movement
à prendre la parole.
to take the floor to present their report. Madam Speaker, the interpreters do not have the report in question. The interpreters do not have the report in question. The interpreters do not have the report about to be presented.
Alors, chers collègues,
Colleagues,
nous avons plutôt la commission mixte.
it should be the Joint Committee on Political Affairs, Peace, Security and APRM, Legal Affairs and Human Rights, Social Affairs, Gender and Women Empowerment. That is the committee, the Joint Committee that will present its report.
Messieurs les co-présidents, vous avez
So, chairpersons, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, the Joint Committee on Political Affairs, Peace, Security, and APRM, the Legal Affairs and Human Rights, and Social Affairs, Gender and Women Empowerment sat to deliberate on the 20th and 22nd of June 2022. It was co-chaired by Honorable Edwin Melvin Snow, Jr., and Honorable Ladi Ayi. I am the chair of the Committee on Political Affairs, and then also rapported by my good self. The agenda included consideration and adoption of the draft agenda and draft work program of the committee, and we adopted the consideration of political and security situation in the sub-region, particularly the political situation and transition in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea, the political situation in Guinea-Bissau, the political situation in Senegal, and the security situation in Togo, and then the status of implementation of the ECOWAS Counter-Terrorism Action Plan. The presentations of the Commission focused on the situation in Burkina Faso, and the report indicated that the Transition Authority created a setback for the community by presenting a 36-month timetable for the transition. ECOWAS was able to appoint His Excellency Mahamadou Issoufou, former President of the Republic of Niger, as mediator for Burkina Faso, which the Transition Authority accepted to facilitate dialogue among all stakeholders. On the situation in Guinea, the appointment of His Excellency Mohamed Ibn Chambers as the mediator in Guinea was only recently accepted by the Transition Authority. And the Transition Authority also adopted a 36-month timeline for the transition process without consultation with ECOWAS. On the situation in Mali, the Transition Authority unilaterally proceeded to sign a decree of a 24-month extension. The Authority of Heads of States, however, asked the mediator, His Excellency Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, to maintain the channel of communication with the Transition Authority. On the political situation in Senegal, the recent demonstrations linked to the invalidation of the list of opposition candidates for the next legislative elections by the Constitutional Court was highlighted, and they actually recommended that this parliament should take an interest in the developments there. And then there was a presentation on the counter-terrorism action plan, which looked at the pooling of resources, effective and direct information sharing, training and equipping, strengthening border management, strengthening the control of arms, counter-terrorism strategy, promoting communication, and mobilizing resources for implementation. The budget is $2,300,000,000 United States dollars. So far, some countries have contributed. Others are trying to contribute. After deliberations, the committee made some recommendations. One set of recommendations to the ECOWAS Parliament and another set of recommendations to the ECOWAS Commission. Relating to the ECOWAS Parliament, the recommendations included the following: to establish a monitoring and evaluation mechanism for pre-election situations in Nigeria, Liberia, and Sierra Leone that will hold presidential elections in the year 2023, to undertake fact-finding missions on the political tensions following the rejection of the opposition bloc list of candidates for the upcoming parliamentary elections in Senegal and the dissolution of the National Assembly in Guinea-Bissau. These missions will enable the Parliament to be better informed about the issues surrounding these tensions and to help prevent political crises in these member states. To set up a parliamentary mediation mechanism to make parliamentary diplomacy more effective in accordance with the provisions of Article 40, Paragraph 2 of the Supplementary Act relating to the enhancement of the powers of the ECOWAS Parliament. To take up alleged cases of human rights violations in Mali and Guinea in accordance with the provisions of Article 7D of the Supplementary Act, which empowers the Parliament to consider any matter concerning the community, in particular issues relating to human rights and fundamental freedoms. The recommendations related to ECOWAS Commission included: one, to get more involved in strengthening cooperation and coordination between member states in the fight against terrorism, particularly by extending the Accra Initiative to all member states and supporting its activities to make it an ECOWAS instrument. To strengthen preventive diplomacy through more rigorous monitoring of political processes in member states, including during non-electoral periods. To involve women more in conflict prevention and management, especially the members of the Parliament's Standing Committee on Women Empowerment. To further strengthen the mechanism for information sharing and interaction with the Parliament beyond parliamentary sessions so that the region can reap more benefits from parliamentary diplomacy. To ensure adequate involvement of the ECOWAS Parliament in the implementation of the ECOWAS counter-terrorism strategy and action plan. And to put in place an adequate mechanism, including relevant indicators for monitoring the quality of governance in member states beyond electoral processes in order to strengthen the early warning system and more effectively prevent crises. The committee recalled decisions that were taken in Monrovia at our previous sitting, first extraordinary session of the Parliament, during which we made some recommendations. So we simply recall those ones. So I don't think it bears repetition. The committee closed and wrote this report and has attached the list of those who were in attendance and at both sittings, the clerks and everybody. And so we urge honorable colleagues to adopt this report. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Merci.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chair. Madam Rapporteur. Have you completed your presentation, Honorable Chair?
Yes. The rapporteur agreed that I should just go ahead and do the presentation. So what I presented entails the report and then the recommendations. And that's why I urge this House to adopt it.
Merci, Monsieur le
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chair. Dear colleagues, the floor is open on this draft report now.
Honorable Abiante.
Honorable Abiante.
Honorable Ndiaye.
Honorable Ndiaye.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just an observation because the Honorable Madam is not the rapporteur. She's Vice Chair. Thank you.
Je ne vous ai pas compris.
I did not really understand. I did not get your point, Madam.
Thank you. What I mean, for it to be captured right, she is not the rapporteur. She is co-chair. Thank you.
Merci pour.
Thank you for that correction. Honorable Abiante, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, my colleagues, especially the committee that has made these presentations. Good work, detailed, that should guide and enhance the issues of the community. My concern is on the recommendation 6 to the Commission, putting in place adequate mechanism. I begin to imagine, and I also begin to wonder, what kind of mechanisms are we hoping to put in place? We've been here, we receive reports from various countries, and at best, these reports, to some extent, they speak falsehood. And they don't also give us the opportunity to interrogate them adequately and properly. Every member of a state would want to praise what they've done, hide the things that we should know, and before you know it, it snowballs into something else. We were here, a country presented all the good things, praised their president to the high heavens. The following morning, there was demonstration in that country. What do we believe? Is it the report that has been presented here, or the realities on ground? So, how do we fine-tune these mechanisms? How do we give enough opportunity for members to interrogate whatever report that comes before us? Is it possible to allow minority reports? If my country comes and they present a report that is not acceptable to probably the opposition, or that does not reflect the exact realities on ground, can we allow someone present a minority report so that we'll have a balance? That's just my concern. Thank you.
Vous avez terminé, Monsieur Abiante?
Now, Honorable Abiante, are you done?
C'était une motion.
Was it
Un commentaire sur le rapport parce que vous avez une motion beaucoup plus générale.
a motion? Were you tabling a motion, or was it just a comment on the report? Honorable Tunkara has the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. I want to thank the co-chairs over there for a job well done. Quickly, going to recommendations they provided us to these chambers. To establish a monitoring and evaluation mechanism for pre-election situation in Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia. These countries are earmarked to have elections in 2023. It just to my concern is the time frame now. The recommendation doesn't have when so we establish this particular evaluation or monitoring committee that will be responsible, because elections are fast approaching, and it is also important for them to capture how soon do you want to establish the M&E monitoring and evaluation committees to go and assess on the ground. I'm really concerned about the time factor. Hence, by next year, February or so, they will be in elections. So the time here is my concern. And also, similar issue also, a fact-finding mission. How soon do you intend to investigate on the dissolution of parliament in Guinea-Bissau and other areas? So in essence, I'm concerned about the time frame. Is it wise to capture a specific time that you intend to create such? Thank you so much for indulgence.
Honorable Bida.
Bida.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I would like to congratulate the members of the Joint Committee who submitted to us such a detailed document, and very informed one at that. I would also like to, first of all, express my solidarity to our colleagues from Guinea-Bissau, a country where the situation is somehow complicated currently because the parliament has been suspended. And I would like to express my solidarity to them and present my condolences to the brother countries of Togo and Senegal. For Togo, the terrorist attacks which claimed some death, and for Senegal, the riots which also claimed some casualties. Now, that being said, Madam Chair, I would like to make an amendment to paragraph 2.2 of the recommendations relating to recommendations made to Parliament. Now, under 2, it says to undertake fact-finding missions on the political tensions. So I would like us to specify, undertake fact-finding missions during the first half of July, because in Senegal, for instance, the elections will be taking place soon. In Guinea-Bissau as well, the situation is also tense. So, and during the discussions on country reports, we also recommended at this juncture that a mission, you were there, you chaired the session, we have already made such a recommendation that a mission should be sent immediately to Guinea-Bissau, and that is why I would like to urge that we indicate the date during the first half of July for the mission to go to Senegal as well, and for the same mission to go to Guinea-Bissau, because the countries are neighbors. Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and once again, congratulations to the Joint Committee. Thank you, Honorable Darboe.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I have the same opinion with my brother, Honorable Tungara, regarding the timeline for the fact-finding mission that's supposed to take place in Senegal and then Guinea-Bissau. I need not to go into that. The other point that I want to intervene surrounding recommendation 40, paragraph 3, to establish mechanism to monitor the development in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, particularly with regards to respect of human rights and public freedom. But what I don't see the clear position of ECOWAS mediating teams regarding the time frame of the various transition periods, since they were taken unilaterally without consultation of ECOWAS. What will be on the decks of ECOWAS in that negotiation regarding the time frame of the transition? Thank you.
Merci. Honorable.
Thank you. Honorable Kerwa Baru.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also want to join my colleagues to thank the committee for a job well done, and the report is very, very clear and straight to the point. I just want to elaborate more on the recommendation to the ECOWAS Commission. Recommendation 3, which says to involve women more in conflict prevention and management, especially the members of the Parliament's Standing Committee on Women Empowerment. I think anything that has to deal with the issue of women, we need to involve the grassroots people who are involved in empowering women. Like if the outgoing regional director for Article 19, which had worked empowering women organizations across the length and breadth of the community, was a woman. And if we go back to the Gambia, the director of WANEP, the sub-regional network that is responsible of conflict resolutions in the Gambia, in West Africa, is also a woman. And if we go to Osiwa, you also have very prominent women who are working towards ensuring empowerment of freedom and rights of women in the sub-region. So I think also involving them in this activity will go a long way in helping and also standing out to help women and to ensure that their roles and responsibilities are more enshrined in these activities. On that note, Honorable Speaker, thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Merci. Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Villan. Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to greet and commend my colleagues from the Commission for their presentation. If I took the floor, it's because I am from Senegal, and as a citizen, elected citizen of the community, and it seems to me that one, looking at the report that is submitted to us, and two, and following the 2 or 3 reactions from our colleagues, it was necessary for me to ask for the floor to, one, clarify matters, and secondly, suggest that we revisit the wording, some of the wordings. Now, first of all, between now and 31st of July, the process now is ongoing. And we are in a state where the rule of law is implemented, even in a democracy or justice. Decision from the court or the Constitutional Council may not satisfy you, or you may agree with it, but the reactions to it are simple ones. One of the colleagues said that we have to review the contents of the country reports, because a country may submit a report and the next day we realize that the situation can change drastically or dramatically or positively. And this is in fact the sensitive nature, the reason why this is very sensitive. Because very often it can rain without there being any clouds, and sometimes it rains when there is sunshine. And those are real facts. And what is happening in the situation is not a political crisis, as a result of which one should express serious concerns or add to the prevailing emotion. It is just that some lists were not approved for the majority, presidential majority, and for part of the opposition. And I'm saying part of the opposition, in a context where from the beginning of the process to date, there are many Senegalese who are members of parties or coalitions who were frustrated in their election actions. So at the beginning there were 15 lists, but only 8 have been approved. What about the other 7 which have been rejected? Because there is part of the opposition whose lists were rejected. They want to add to the emotions and are threatening, and people are talking about sensitive political situation in Senegal. When people demonstrate, it is their rights. But when demonstrations go beyond their rights or attack the rights of the others, then this is not allowed. The authority of the state must be respected, and the authority of court rulings must also be respected, because some live in anguish because they are saying that from 31st of July, if they are not candidates, if they are not elected, anybody can take them to court. Now, there is a very noisy opponent who has a problem with a woman, a young girl, who thinks that who said that she was sexually abused, who took him to court, but who cannot see her executioner be before justice because he benefits from parliamentary immunity. Dear colleagues, from July 2022, we will have an electoral campaign in Senegal. You will not be able to meet some of the people because they will not have time. Yehu, Wallu, Benobog, Yarakar, Par, and others will be involved in the campaign. So what I would like to suggest is that the notion words used here be withdrawn, and we talk about the political situation. We're talking about agitation or riots following. There is no political crisis in Senegal. There is a crisis when the institutions are not functioning. And let me inform you that the National Assembly, whose term is going to end, continues to deal with current matters. Next Monday, we will be meeting Adama Big Togo from the Honorable Adama Big Togo from Cote d'Ivoire. We will be participating in a closing session of the ordinary, in the closing of the ordinary session. So, dear colleagues, I do know how attached we are to peace, stability. I do know the concerns that we have as regards what happens in the countries, our countries in the sub-region. But let us have some lucidity in all this. There are some external forces. There are some lobbies moved by the wealth discovered in some of our countries and which are troubling the situation. So I am not going to say to lengthen my intervention. I would just like to say that there is no crisis. Honorable Villan, it's okay. we have Honorable Jibo. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you. You saw me. Madam, I would like to recall that the title of the one of the committees is Political Affairs, Peace, Security, and APRM. And as far as I can remember, APRM exists and is represented in almost all of our countries. And those who represent APRM in those countries submit reports, periodic reports, and at no time here did we address what this body does, or the reports that it submits on what we are concerned by, that is crisis in our countries and how the governments are involved. So may I ask the chair of this committee and the rapporteur what is happening to this body, to this structure? Thank you. Honorable Ali Sampson.
Speaker, for the opportunity. Madam Speaker, I agree that nobody can predict when there will be coup d'etat in a country. but it seems to me our actions as a regional body is encouraging coups in our sub-region. What do we see? Anytime there is coup, the government, the constitution, parliament is suspended. The next thing we hear is that ECOWAS Commission has suspended that particular country, and then a mediator is appointed. Sometimes even before the mediator is appointed, they have come out with their timetable as to when they will conduct elections. And we engage them. So if you look at Burkina Faso, they have given a time frame of 36 months. And in Guinea, 36 months. I don't know whether there is any reason why they are all proposing 36 months. I just want to find out, are there reasons why it's not 6 months, why it's not 1 year, but 36 months? Why are the coup leaders so happy with coming up with a time frame of 36 months? Are there reasons? Did you find out from the commissioners and why they are proposing 36 months? And then you, as part of the recommendations to Parliament, you said that, to establish a monitoring and evaluation mechanism for pre-election situations. Since I've been in this Parliament, this recommendation has been part of all our recommendations. What are you going to do differently? Is it the case that you will just put up a team, a delegation to go to those the countries, or this time around you are going to consider technical authorities to support Parliament to ensure that we give meaning to this monitoring and evaluation mechanisms to ensure that we're able to contain or forestall some of these unforeseen political misunderstandings. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
Merci.
Thank you, honorable colleague. Well, before giving the floor to the co-chair, I would like to say that I attended the meetings of this joint committee, and I can say that we did not have enough facts because the Commission was at a somehow lower level because the Commissioner himself was not present. So, in fact, we were not fully satisfied. I know that there are lots of questions. I don't know how the Commission is going to address it, but there are issues that fall under the preview of the Commission. Honorable Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity once again. Let me just start with the last Honorable Ahin regarding the 36 months period. Those decisions were unilaterally taken by the military authorities in those countries that proposed the 36 months. They were not taken in consultation with the ECOWAS mediator, and that is why it is an issue. For many of them, they lined up programs that they want to implement leading up to the conduct of free and fair elections. Some of them even said they wanted to carry out population census. Others wanted to start from the local level, have local level elections, reconstitute their electoral bodies, and etc. Carry out sensitization. They outlined a tall list of programs, and that has been the basis for the time frames that they requested. We were told at the meeting that in some of the cases, the mediators told them that if they were to actually implement the things that they said they want to implement before the elections, even the 36 months will not be enough for them to be able to implement, those things. So they should just cut it and agree on a time frame. In the case of Mali, they signed a decree imposing a 24 months period. And the understanding is that the Malian authorities had, presented a certain image of themselves to their population. And so, as a face-saving issue, they find it difficult to be seen backing down from the impression they had given to their population. And so, that appears to be what is motivating the Malian authorities to maintain the 24 months period that they are insisting on. M&E of elections, yes. I'll just add that to earlier issues raised regarding the recommendation 1 of the paragraph 39. Yeah, I mean, the concern was that normally the parliament is seen as a tag along to election observation missions by the commission. We hardly ever try to be proactive. And so the basis of that recommendation is that we should have our own mechanism for monitoring what is happening in countries and send early missions to go and assess the situation. For instance, that was the basis for the recommendations for going to Senegal, that you don't wait until after the election, then there's a crisis, and then you are debating it here. How about intervening at this point, monitoring and observing the elections, and if after that, there's a need to follow up, we can follow up. That was the basis. I agree with you that consistently we have complained about our role in elections, and this recommendation, along other previous recommendations, is aimed at dealing with that problem. I do also agree that we haven't done any serious work in relation to Africa peer review mechanism reports, and we will go by your wisdom henceforth as a committee. We would task our clerk to gather those reports for us so that those that relate to West African countries, we can also review them and then present some form of report to this House. I'm sure this is a matter that the committee will discuss at its next possible meeting. But that's an excellent observation, and we thank you very much for that. Honorable Villa, about 2 years ago, the Speaker sent a delegation to Mali because there was a political situation regarding parliamentary elections there. I was fortunate to be a member of that delegation. When we arrived there in the evening, we met with the then Speaker of that parliament, and we told him that ECOWAS Parliament had sent us to come and discuss the political situation there relating to the parliamentary elections. He swore heaven and earth that there was no problem at all in Mali. He told us that there was no problem. There was no issue at all. All we were hearing were just empty noises. And we agreed that the following morning we will meet him in his office to continue deliberations. At 8 o'clock in the morning, when we were ready to go to his office, we were told that we should not leave our hotel because there was a military coup. And that particular speaker had been arrested. And the parliament had been suspended. And yet this was somebody who swore heaven and earth the night before that there was no problem in that country. So we hear you, but the report that we got suggested to us that there was a need for us to go there at least and find out exactly what is happening, to hear from both sides and to find out whether we can be of any assistance to the various political groups there. If we go and then we find out that we cannot be of any assistance to them, at least we would be able to tell exactly the factual situation on the ground and report appropriately to this House. That is, if this House still believes that the recommendation that a mission should be sent there is appropriate. The involvement of women, yes, I think it was the spirit of the deliberations there that women should be involved, and not just, members of this parliament. Indeed, some people suggested that first ladies, women leading NGO groups, women, at all levels, because several arguments were advanced why women should be actively involved in the work of the ECOWAS, Commission, as it tries to carry out mediation and conciliation sessions in the various countries. Yes, we discussed the issue of how we report to this House. I think we debated the issue of country reports and the sincerity of country reports. So I think that your observation about country reports and the sincerity with which we present country reports and the sincerity in the debate of country reports came up strongly during our committee deliberations. And we even expressed concern about the victimization of members when they are sincere in their debates here, and how people report them back at home and they get victimized, and sometimes they don't get returned to this House because they are alleged to have mouthed their countries at an international platform. And so we recommended to the Commission that they should be sharing their report, their political situation report, because they prepare political situation reports and security situation reports for their Council of Ambassadors and Council of Ministers and Authority of Heads of States. And we told them that that is where the problem is. The problem is these people that you are reporting to. So if you want partners in solving the problem, you should share those reports with us, so that if our colleagues don't give us accurate reports in their country reports, at least we have access to your intelligence report about what is actually happening in those countries. And if I don't come from Nigeria and the session is not being held in Abuja, I can confidently criticize the government of Nigeria in the Gambia and know that it will be difficult for them to get to me. But then I would have been representing voices in Nigeria who are looking for a platform for their views to be heard. So we did make that recommendation to the Commission, and they agreed with us and requested for a regular platform. And if you see, one of our recommendations talks about they meeting us even during non-sessions periods, so that they can report to the political committee to also relay the information to this House to enrich our debates and the resolutions that we will be passing. So thanks for bringing up that matter. Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone. Yes, it came up because the understanding is that we should not wait till it is election time, then we go and then we are observers. When a country has elections, sometimes the issues that will become contentious can be seen from afar, but we ignore them, especially the heads of states. The assumption is that they tend to ignore each other's issues. They sweep them under the carpet, under the umbrella of brotherhood. And yet those will become problems that the Commission and ECOWAS as a whole will have to deal with. We discussed the issue of Guinea, former president, his review of the constitution, the one term, the third term, issues, and etc., and how all that was swept under the carpet until it led to, the overthrow of that regime, and now we are grappling with the problem. So the Parliament is being urged to develop more interest in what is happening in countries, and that is why we thought that for countries that are having elections in 2023, we should be interested now in what is happening there, what the rules are for the elections, candidate selection, everything, and appraise this House. And if there's the need to pass resolutions, this House should at least be another voice, in addition to the domestic voices calling for the right things to be done. The issue of fact-finding mission and the specific time frame, it was discussed there. We had to confer with the Speaker. Yesterday, we relayed the information to the Speaker. The Speaker gave his approval, and the chairman of the committee directed me to consult with the Secretary General. Early this morning, I conferred with Secretary General, but the understanding is that we need to link up with those countries and find out how we can facilitate the mission. And the issue of time also is being considered. We do agree that for some of them, they are so urgent that we must go as soon as practicable. And so we take the sense of the House that we must act expeditiously. And so that will inform the determination of the time frame and the time that the committee will move. Is there any other outstanding issue? And then there was a question about recommendation 6 to the ECOWAS Commission. The members of the joint committees raised issues about the general operational strategy of ECOWAS. And we underscored the position that ECOWAS tends to focus on crisis situations and elections. But in between elections, when the various elected governments are mismanaging affairs in their countries, under the guise of national sovereignty and etc., we don't move in to try and assist, guide them, correct them, and prevent them from making mistakes. We wait until they mismanage the situations in their countries until it gets to a crisis. Then again, we are running in with resources to deal with the crisis that could have been nipped in the bud if we had intervened much earlier. So the committee was requesting the commission, the committees, requested the commission to develop an interest in what happens between elections in those countries, how the institutions of those countries are functioning, indeed the quality of the institutions and the quality of governance in those institutions. If they pay more attention to those ones, they will rather be able to prevent the crisis from emerging. And so that is what informed the recommendation to the Commission that they should develop tools and mechanisms for monitoring what is happening in between elections and intervening at that stage to prevent institutions from degenerating. I think that was what informed the recommendation 6 to the ECOWAS Commission. Have I left out anything? What else? Yeah. Okay, so my co-chair, who co-chaired the meeting, wants to add a few things.
Thank you, co-chair. In listening to you, you basically have dealt with all the issues and systematically and in details. I just want to top up to the fact that being in this house, you would have observed and noted that many a times reports that are being presented to the house, we really argue even within ourselves. And those who know some of those countries that the reports might come out from, normally tend to say things that it's like they are rather in those countries, and they even know better. That informed the fact that we need to go into countries and not only wait until it's time for elections, you go and say you are going on observer mission. Observing what? Is it the casting of the ballot or the declaration of the results? Because after all the troubles have come and then the results come out, it's quite difficult for you to kind of say no. The only thing you will do is for you to intervene. So we agreed that it's better to ensure that you go into the country, know most of the things, try to find out, do some kind of monitoring, listen to what the people are even saying. Because I recall that during the discussion, the issue of giving the electorate, members of those committees, a hearing ear has become one of the causes of problems in some of the countries. Indeed, when we discuss the issue of the juntas, the military juntas and the coups and what have you, we realize that even the attacks that we have is because maybe those people, I am saying maybe, being abundantly careful, do not have anybody to listen to them. So once there's nobody to listen to them, they find another way of ensuring that they are being listened to. And so we think that when we come in on time, it would give us that leeway of knowing some of the issues that are hidden or that may not come to our attention before these incidences. My brother spoke about involving other women when it comes to women coming from the gender committee or from this house to go and undertake activities of security and peace in other countries. Definitely, there is no way that you would go as a good leader, not get in touch with your colleague women or women who are actually in positions and would know better or could inform you much better for you to be able to unearth what you need. You definitely would have to involve them. This is the more reason why we have said and we continue to say, and Madam Speaker was there, we all spoke about it seriously, that women should be involved. Because many a times in talking to women, men may not be able to delve deep as colleague women would be able to delve deep into in questioning and trying to find out. And even sometimes men may not, and I'm using the word may not take the trouble to listen to women abundantly. We know each other and we can deal with each other, and we know that sometimes there is very serious information with our colleague women. So we would be part of it, and we will surely involve those who are in those countries. I think this is just what I wanted to add. Thank you very much.
Merci, Madame le Co-Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Co-Chair. I can see the hostman, Honorable Vilan Tunkara. You have 2 minutes, please.
Okay. Je voudrais, Madame la Présidente.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to say that I have listened to the reactions of my colleague, Honorable Ariga, and I believe that in this chamber, I don't think there is any parliamentarians who would like to see Senegal plunge into chaos, but would rather see stable democracy, an exemplary one, and a nation that resists in spite of all the odds to the threat of chaos. I would like to assure all of you that each time that Senegal has positively surprised the sub-region, Africa and the world. There are ill-intentioned people and groups who are waiting for Senegal to be blown away by evil. And it goes without saying that what is happening in Senegal is under control. Senegal cannot be compared to those countries that you cited as an example. And if all the all countries are called countries, but all countries are not countries. All countries want democracy, but all countries do not comply with the rule of law. All countries have a population, but they are not all nations. What I would like to say is that I would like for us to amend the format of the report before us. On item 30, on 30, on Senegal, members expressed their deep concern over the tension following the invalidation. I don't have anything wrong with that, but a mention is made of list. I think it's one list for the next legislative elections, and which led to demonstrations and resulted in some losses of lives. I don't see any problem so far, but I would like the Parliament to reaffirm its attachment to the rule of law and democracy. And so, first of all, to the rule of law, and then to democracy, and to stability and the respect of law and regulations. This is very important because whatever we say, if we don't respect the rule of law or the regulations or the set rules, then it's of no interest to anyone. And this is what I would like to clearly spell out. With respect to recommendation 2, I am in support of us carrying out a fact-finding mission in the political tensions following the rejection of the opposition bloc's list. I wouldn't want this to appear in this document because it's referring to a third term. I think that we should respect Senegal and we should respect its leaders and its institutions. You have never heard the president, Macky Sall, said the contrary of the rule of law or respect of a rule of law, and he has always reaffirmed his attachment to 2 tenures, no more, no less. Yeah, I would like to ask if any one of you has been a head of state. Do you know what it means to be a head of state? A sitting head of state? Do you know the risk that countries run? Honorable member, we've understood. You did make concrete suggestions, and you suggested that we modify paragraph 30. The co-chairs are going to tell you if they agree with that amendment or not. I'm going to have to deny you the floor this time around.
Villan, s'il vous plaît.
Honorable Villan, please. Honorable Tunkara, you have the floor.
Forgive me the floor. I thank the chairman for his brilliant response to concerns raised. I will still take you back to the time frame. We appreciate the consultation you've had with the Speaker and the Secretary General. But then it's important for us to unilaterally or unanimously agree that the M&E would be conducted 6 months prior before election in any country. When I know that there will be an ECOWAS M&E 6 months prior for election in my country, it gives me level of preparation and also to involve stakeholders. Each member would have known that whenever there's election coming into my country, we expect the ECOWAS parliamentary members coming to conduct M&E, and also the response of our the co-chair listening to observation and concern. Is really more to that. I'll tell you an example. In the Gambia, we conducted what we call Afro-Barometer survey. The survey tells you the realities on the ground through the use of sample survey. It gives you raw data of facts of the country situation. They even preempt the number of seats that the government will have and the opposition will have. And they got 80% of the prediction. So it goes beyond just listening. I would also urge you to employ those tools, sample surveying, to understand what is really going on. Have your scorecard. What are you looking for? Have them on board. Then even it's going to be important to even outsource survey to go and conduct survey. Then have those ones as M&E. Then you also will have the position to monitor X, Y, and Z on scorecard prior before election. However, if it's agreed that 6 months there will be a program of such to be conducted in member state countries, MPs will be aware that there will be such a visit in my country. My concern is the time frame factor as well. It's important you have to interact with other stakeholders.
Chers collègues.
Dear colleagues, thank you, dear colleague. Honorable Jibo, you have the floor. Honorable Arifali, you have the floor. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the quality of the conduct of proceeding. I'm not a member of the political affairs, but I took part in the meetings from start to finish. I'd like to make a general observation. When we are in the ECOWAS Parliament, we are committed to a search for common community objectives, and we should take it upon ourselves to ensure that our national sentiments do not cloud our community sentiment during our discussions. And I'd like to reiterate that if each one of us, when they have the floor, set out to defend their country, in my opinion, we risk losing sight of a number of provisions of community interests which we are committed to, and in the spirit of which we are producing our documents. And so I'd like us to be very clear about that. On paragraph 30, the document under discussion, the French version to be precise. Yes, I believe that where it is stated that they also express concerns regarding the suspense and shroud of secrecy surrounding the possible third-term bid of the President of the Republic, I think we should talk about new term, because I'd like to draw attention to the fact that in the spirit of the debate, the Speaker, in his submission, referred to the meeting, the ministerial meeting held in Accra, where 3 countries had expressed reservation on the document on the protocol under revision. And I think Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal were mentioned. And so they expressed reservations. Now, if we are talking of a third term, it appears that somehow we are taking a position going by the debate, whereas what is fair would be to say that, yes, we did express our concern with respect to an eventual candidacy of the President of Senegal to a new term. And so let's not qualify the term. That's what I'd like us to point out. Thank you.
Honorable Abiante.
Honorable Abiante.
Thank you very much once again, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Chair of the various committees as presented. I also want to thank my colleagues and probably appeal to us not to see truth as antagonism. Because if truth is buried here in this parliament, I doubt where else we'll find the truth. This text does not apply and appeal to one country, neither does it do to one member of parliament. For any amendment to be made, it has to be a collective. No matter how you feel about it, if the majority are not in support of expunging any part of the document, I think it will so remain. And in so doing, I want to appeal to my colleagues to stick by the truth. It may be very challenging, it could be very bitter, but that is the only thing that will save our tomorrow. Is the term in question the first term? Is it the second term? If the answers are no, and it remains that it is indeed a third term, under whatever guise, I think we should stick by the truth. I am not here to clap for anybody. I am not here to massage the ego of any member of parliament or any country. I took an oath to stand by the community. And I appeal to other members of this parliament to remember and stand by that oath. And if you say we conduct our measurement and evaluation 6 months, 6 months to an election is quite too far. You can have a pass mark, then what happens thereafter? I think the monitoring should be a continuous thing until the election comes. That is my own simple appeal. I don't want anyone to see each other as antagonizing the interests of your countries. Probably we stick to what you said. Let us get our reports from external sources so that no individual will be singled out by his country for whatever injustices. That if we so do, I will be speaking truth without necessarily referring to anybody, without quoting the source, that I know that my source has been authenticated. Please and please, if we do these things and we live by them, I'm sure we'll have a very stable community, and that will guarantee the tomorrow of our children. Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, that is my little further interventions.
Merci.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Honorable Co-Chair. You have the floor now.
Madam Speaker, on the issue of Senegal, the Commission in their report just highlighted two issues. One, the upcoming legislative election and the problems surrounding the legislative elections, and said that it had to do with the candidate list. And there are ongoing demonstrations. Some people have even died in the process, and actually urged us if we could intervene and find out exactly what the problem is. I don't think that we can say for a fact that this is the problem, but that is what a mission helps you to do. A mission will help you to find out what the facts are. And I don't believe that any member of this House can go into Senegal and overturn the constitution of Senegal. If you get to Senegal and you do your fact-finding and you find out that what the opposition is claiming is not true, you report that what the opposition is claiming is not true. If you find out that what the government is claiming is not true, you report that what the government is claiming is not true. If you also find out from legal advice that everything is done according to the constitution of the country, this parliament cannot overturn the constitution of the country. You report that everything was done according to the constitution of the country. Whichever way, a report will help address the misunderstanding surrounding exactly what the problem is. Like you said, you can actually have a loud, noised opposition, and people may not really know what the situation is. But even for a government, having a mission come and unravel the truth and tell the rest of the world that this is indeed the truth helps the government. Because if the government said, the people may doubt it. But if a third party comes in and finds out that these are the facts and reports to the world that these are the facts, it will help the government. And it might, soften the position to find out that the world has found out what games you are up to. And on the issue of the term limits, it was extensively discussed. It was extensively discussed because it is a problem of the sub-region, and the Commission reported the commitment made to have term limits and the resistance that they are facing after the Authority of Heads of States in 2014 themselves, without anybody prompting them, said they want to have term limits. Now that the Commission has drafted a protocol on term limits and given it to the countries, some countries are resisting. So that was what they reported to us. And the issue of Senegal came up because they said that apart from the legislative elections, one issue that is brewing some concern, still hanging, is whether or not the president will run. He has not indicated whether he will run under the new constitution or he will not run. He hasn't indicated. And people are concerned and want to know whether or not he will run under the new constitution, whether you call it a first term under the new constitution or a third term. That is the issue that they reported to us. Indeed, at the meeting, some of us said that you can't force him to tell you what he wants to do in a few years' time. You just have to monitor and then see what ultimately happens. But then the position of the committee had to do with whether or not we should push for the protocol on the third limit. That was the issue. And at the committee, there was quite some division. I mean, some people saying, look, why are you forcing third limits as if, a term limit is key to a democracy? And there was extensive debate about the value or otherwise of term limits in a democracy. We even recall parliamentary democracies. Some of us argued that, look, in Germany, the chancellor can be there for 20 years. In the UK, the prime minister can be there for 20 years. But then the difference is that there's a mechanism for removing the person anytime within that 20 years if the person is not delivering. So in Africa and in West Africa, we're also looking for a mechanism for keeping good regimes and removing bad regimes, but through the ballot box. And so readily term limit is what comes to mind. And the Commission said, look, it's not even the Parliament that is pushing for term limits. The heads of states themselves in 2014 said they want term limits, and they instructed the Commission to come up with a protocol. And now that they have come up with a protocol, a few countries are pushing back. And there was even a debate about how we should couch our report, because we ended up saying that let's agree that there is no consensus, if you recall. So we said that let's say that there is no consensus yet on the term limit protocol. So that is basically what happened. So I agree with the Honorable Villan that we may have to reconsider the casting of paragraph 30 and not to present any president in a negative light. If paragraph 30 was in the presentation itself, I wouldn't have fought it, because that was what they actually said. they actually said that there's some tension and concern about whether or not the president will go a third term. But in our deliberations, there were those who were for, those who were against. So this doesn't really capture, you know, okay, so this captures, this doesn't capture everything, because we also wanted some brevity in terms of our report. So just so that you know that as a committee, we have no intention of dragging any president's name in the mud. Time frame, yes, I do agree with you that we must have a time frame. 6 months, 3 months, whatever. It probably will all depend on a country's political election calendar. And I don't think he said you should do it at 6 months and that will be the end. I think he meant you begin 6 months to the elections, up to the elections, so that you can have a longer period to assess the situation and etc. And my co-chair spoke about the issue about giving community members a hearing. This had to do particularly with the report on counter-terrorism, because there was an extensive discussion on terrorism, which unfortunately has not featured that much in our report, because that component on terrorism, the report is so long, I omitted to highlight it. But there was an extensive discussion about terrorism and the work of the Commission in dealing with terrorism. And we, the members of Parliament, kept telling the Commission that, look, the people that you call terrorists are our constituents. We live with them, we know them, and very often they just have issues. And so instead of labeling them terrorists, come to us, the parliamentarians, and send us to them. We'll find out what their issues are. And you should get their countries to take on board their issues and the reasons why they are using terrorist messaging strategies. And that if we give our community members more hearing, or if we turn this parliament as a platform where citizens of the community feel that, okay, if I don't get heard in my country, I can go to ECOWAS parliament and I'll be heard, and my issues will be, you know, amplified for the world to know. They may not resort to terrorist messaging strategies. That was discussed, and we even came to a conclusion that we should highlight the petitioning mechanism, which is in our Supplementary Act and our Rules of Procedure, so that citizens can petition the Parliament directly when they have issues, instead of resorting to, you know, violent